Nobody signs up for your program. All the stuff that you learn during certifications, it's pointless. And this is where most coaches end up in, is that they'll go through a certification, they'll go try to put themselves out there, it doesn't work. Oh, I think I need another certification. They go through the next certification, and they go through the next. Before you know it, they have 5, 6 certifications, and they think they have developed certain skill sets, but they haven't. They've just amassed a bunch of information and modalities to do certain things, but they haven't actually done anything with it.
Daniel, and you are about to watch a clip from our free podcast, The Coach's Journey, where we help you navigate the surprisingly difficult path of building a coaching business by people who are actually doing it. And we go live, raw and unedited every week in our free Facebook community. Coaches Nation, welcome to another edition of the Coach's Journey podcast. I'm here with Faisal, and we are going to be talking about something that you've probably never thought about too much, which is the coaching skills that you need before they join your coaching program. And if you are thinking about all the coaching certifications you might have taken or all the coaching skills you built to coach in your program, you might not have been thinking about what coaching skills do you really need to get them to sign up for your program. Because you might be a great coach after they sign up, but they're not going to sign up unless you can coach well in the process leading up to them choosing to sign up with you. And that is the part that many coaches struggle with. Some people call it sales. Some people call it coaching. We're going to talk about it in terms of coaching today because there are many areas of skills that you need in order to help people sign up to your program if it's the right fit for them. We're not talking about manipulating people into signing up. We're talking about helping them make the right decision for them. Because if your coaching program is valuable, you're going to need people to sign up for it. So we're going to talk about those skills today. And we at CMC are really focused on these skills as the area of coaching skills that you need in order to make your business work consistently long-term and efficiently too, because if you don't have these skills, you're not going to sign up people to your program, at least not as often, and maybe not at all. So if you're struggling with the people, with the prospects that you have that aren't signing up, then there's several skill sets in here that you need to pay attention to. We're going to talk about a few of them today. Obviously, there's not enough time to talk about everything because there's so much to cover, but I'm really excited to get into this topic, Faisal, as we're sharing with the coaching community here about the most important skills, not the ones after they start your program, but the ones before they start your program. So with that, Faisal, what do you have to say on the topic to get us started here?
Yeah, and exactly as you mentioned, when we go for a certification, we're both certified coaches as well. And when you go through any kind of certification, you're given an amalgam of wide range of skill sets that you might or might not apply in a given context. And it's a lot like when you're going to university and getting a degree, you're taught a lot of things. But you might not apply all of it, and you might not apply all of it in a specific context. Now, the coaching certification is much more condensed than a university degree, for example, but you're still taught a lot of theory. Now, what we're talking about, the practical application of the applied side of things is, so let's say you graduate from your certification, you're excited to like, okay, I've developed some skill sets, which you haven't. You've picked up the theory around the skill sets. And you go out there and start, well, where do I get started? In the first place, you're gonna get stuck and you'll be like, well, I don't know how to market myself. And then the second place will be like, well, how do I sell my program? Well, the certifications are not that concerned about that because they just needed to teach you the theory. Now you're out in the world, you're trying to offer the thing that you think is very valuable to people, but there's a huge gap between the time that you connect with somebody or put yourself in front of somebody to the time somebody hires you. How do you fill that gap? Now, certifications do give you some pointers around this. Oh, this is what you do. You bring them into an enrollment call, but it's not as detailed. They kind of give you over high level pieces of it. But what we've learned in our own experience as coaches, and then working through this with other coaches, that the more detailed you get in this area, the more you can understand. Okay, it's not just one or two things. There's a whole vast array of skill sets that you haven't been taught or they haven't been amplified for you to go from the time you put yourself out there to the time that you get the client. And if you don't get the client, nobody signs up for your program. All the stuff that you learn during certifications, it's pointless. And this is where most coaches end up in, is that they'll go through a certification, they go try to put themselves out there, it doesn't work. Oh, I think I need another certification. They go through the next certification, then they go through the next. Before you know it, they have 5, 6 certifications, and they think they have developed certain skill sets, but they haven't. They've just amassed a bunch of information and modalities to do certain things, but they haven't actually done anything with it.
I would say maybe they've done something with it because in a lot of certifications they do practice coaching, or they maybe like
Mhm.
have to get somebody to do pro bono coaching with, and they grow some skills. Maybe they even get a couple clients through that process of practicing their coaching skill sets in a
The
program.
good ones, yeah, the good ones, they even have certain. I was talking to one certification where they that was a little bit of a stretch. They're like, well, you need to show 25 hours of coaching, and about half of that is paid. So
Good.
now they're pushing them to, which I liked, but that would be hard to that will be incredibly difficult because that's the area of discomfort for them. But most certifications, they don't require you to do that. They do like practice coaching with other coaches, which I think helps a little bit. But any coach who's built a coaching practice, if you talk to them, there's a big difference between coaching somebody for practice and charging somebody and then coaching them. The
Yes,
pressure
whether
is
it's practice
different,
or
the
not, but
intention.
like pro bono or not is another big question, right?
Yeah,
Like
especially when somebody's paying you now, that changes the game a little bit. Somebody's putting their hard-earned money, energy, trust in you to help them with something. And let's say you're struggling in that area, then what happens?
mhm.
How do you and this is where a lot of coaches have confidence challenges. I don't know if it'll work because you don't know if it'll work. You haven't
Of
actually
course
put
you
it
don't
out
know if
there,
it will work. You've never tried it before. You never tried
right?
selling your program. You might not even know what your program is. Like you might not know
Right?
what you're capable of, right? You've done so. I think coming out of certifications, I was like this myself. I came out of certification. I'm like, okay, I have skills. I might have a methodology or a process, and I did have something. I had done some practice coaching. I had taken some people through process, and then I went out and did some practice coaching with people and took them through the process. And then like it came time to try to actually get clients to buy the program, and that was a totally different game. And so I think this is where coaching certifications today have this gap that we've seen, which is they're coaching you on what to do once you have the client. That's like coaching skills after you have signed the client. But what do you do before you sign the client? What skills do you need to get the client to come along with you and choose to sign your program? We're going to assume for the purposes of discussion that that is something that's good for them. It's a program that can make a difference for them, that you can deliver, that the results they're looking for are totally in line with what you can offer, and that this is something that they need. And a lot of time, this is one area I think of that the skill set. Here's a skill set that coaches struggle with is like believing that the client actually needs this enough to make an offer or to be confident in an offer. Like a lot of the time, coaches have no confidence in the offer, and it's partly because they haven't actually taken anybody through it, and partly because they haven't sold it and don't know the value of it. Which is why you need to be charging for coaching so you can understand, like deeply understand that there's value and that people pay for it, and what was the relative value to that program. Like, even if you have to charge less than you think the program is worth, go for it because you'll get the experience of having charged for it. It's way more valuable to do that at a lower price than to try to hold out for the higher price, especially in the beginning, because you're going to learn what it feels like. There's a skill set there. There's a skill set of of training yourself to feel the way you feel and moving forward anyways. There's a skill set of dealing with all this stuff, and there's multiple skill sets. It's not just one area. There's like 150 different areas of skills that you could talk about in this process of getting someone to sign up with you.
Yeah, maybe we can start with our diagram of where we're like visually show them where what we're talking about, like what happens when you put yourself out there. That might be very useful for at least for those who are watching this, and for those who are listening to this, we can walk you through it verbally, and then we can talk about what are some of the high level skill sets that you might know. We can't break down all of it because there will be a lot. In fact, we are actually in the process of launching a certification that's connected to this, but not just a certification that typically you get, but a certification that actually trains you to get ready to actually get clients, and which is very different. So we'll walk you through it visually for you to see what we're talking about, and then we'll take it from there. What do you think, Danny?
You want to go through the sales process slide? That's what you're talking about,
Yeah,
like our
yeah.
core methodology. Okay, I can pull it
Hmm.
up. But while we're pulling that up, I think it's really important that everybody understands, like, I want, before you even look at the slide or before you even hear us talk about it, if you're listening on audio, I want you to think about how confident do you feel about when you meet somebody. Let's just assume they're desperately seeking your program somewhere in their life. has a great need for support, but they might not have been
Well,
thinking
they're
about.
not seeking your program. They need some support
That's what I'm
is
saying.
the
Yeah,
key.
like they would be a great fit for your program, right? They need support, and you're like a great coach for them who could take them through that support. And yeah, like that's another word for desperately seeking a program. Like they really need your help. Like that's what I'm talking about. Like they don't know it yet. They might not have thought about, oh, I need a coach. They might not have thought about, oh, I need this person. They might not have thought about like, oh, I have this problem in my life enough deeply to warrant a commitment to that process. It's a process of change and transformation and support. They might not have thought about any of these things, but how do you take somebody from that blind place to the place where they're actually signing up with you? Because a lot of clients are going to become. They're going to be either people who don't know what they don't know or know they need some support. So like that's the question we're asking about. Like think about how you take somebody from that place to signing up with you. Do you have any repeatable things that you do? Any process that you follow? Do you take them? Do you just invite them to a discovery session, and when you meet them, hey, let's do a discovery session? Do you pitch them your services? You know, when you meet them, do you pitch them at the discovery? Just like what are you doing? Like what is the process that you're taking them through? I want you to just think about that for a minute as we pull up the slide and to talk to you about like the general process that a client or prospect will go through before they sign up for your program. And these are guidelines that we've created over years and years of trying different things, um, and specifically in the coaching world. So I'll pull it up here, Faisal.
I have
And
it up here, so
oh, you've got it.
I could share it. Yeah,
If I can share it if you want to talk through it.
go go ahead. You can share.
Okay, I'll just kick it off. Like none of this happens, by the way, if you're not putting yourself out there in some way. We're not going to talk about that a lot today. We're going to talk about what happens when you meet somebody. So at some point, you meet somebody, you're in contact with them. And yeah, we have lots of strategies of how to do that really well. That's what these other logos are for. You can tap your network, you can expand your network, but having these prospecting conversations is just conversational skill. That's actually a really important skill that we can highlight here. When you get in contact with someone, how do you carry them forward in conversation? And that conversation might not be into your coaching program, but sometimes it might be. And that's part of the skill set is knowing which is which and knowing how to identify and how to draw out the support that you can offer and that they need. So anything else to share here, Faisal? Why don't you go ahead and continue for the with the
Yeah,
process?
so just to step back, we're assuming that you're actually putting yourself out there, which means quote unquote you're marketing yourself, which means that could be networking with people or on social media or whatever it might be. Your
You're
strategy
getting in
might
front
be,
of
but
people.
we're assuming that you're not in your corner, not doing anything. You're connecting with people, and as soon as you put yourself out there, the next logical step
Can
from
I
there
pause
is
there,
that
Faisal? I want to make a distinction for people. Putting up a website is not putting yourself out there. That's just a
right.
website. Nobody's seeing
So
that.
the condition is that you get connected with somebody in a conversation. And that's the first place of you actually starting the coaching process. And that's the first contact that you have with people. Can you move it forward a bit, Daniel?
Yep. Yeah, let's continue forward.
So as soon as you get connected with somebody, then the first place that you go to is a meaningful conversation. What we mean by that is that now you're starting to create a space for people to open up. And how would you do that? And this is it's interesting as we've kind of gone through this process with coaches. They struggle to build that, and that's what Daniel was referring to, conversational skills. But it's not about oh you're chit chatting or doing anything, but how does somebody feel around you? It has a lot to do with you building some kind of trust. And a lot of it is under the way your energy is. How present are you asking them questions that are relevant for them? Do you care about them? Like these things show up immensely, not just jumping in and saying, well, what's your problem? What's your challenge? But really creating a space for people to just open up.
Yeah, and meaningful conversation can mean a lot of things in a lot of contexts. The main thing Faisal mentioned, which is exactly right on, which is how does your conversation make them feel? Do they feel like they can trust you? What is your energy doing? What's your level of curiosity about them? How are you engaging with them? Right? There's, there's a lot of levels of this. You can talk about body language, you can talk about eye contact, but like some of it is like how you have the conversation, how you hold yourself, how you show up for them in that conversation, and like you can extend this to how you have conversations with everybody in your life. Are you showing up in a way that makes them feel really positive, makes them trust you more? Like that's a big piece of the puzzle. And there's several skill sets embedded in here in how to have
Yeah.
conversations. And there's specific skill sets around how to have conversations that pull out the support needs where you can actually serve, you can actually make a difference for them. The support needs that they really need help with. You might have been in front of somebody, but you never identified that they really need exactly the kind of help that you want, that you offer, that they want, because you didn't have that conversation in a way that could extract that. It doesn't mean that every conversation is only intention is to extract that. No, that's just part of the conversational skill set.
Yeah.
So after
And
you go ahead.
the thing that breaks down here, there are multiple skill sets here, but I would say the overarching skill set here is to create the space for the client, the person to open up, and not even the client because they are not a client. And you might not even have an intention to work with them, but this is a human leadership trait, is that how can you create a space for people to open up with you? And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
coaches struggle because now they're flustered. They're thinking about it. Well, will this person be a client? Am I going to offer something? You're nowhere close to that. You don't even know what's going on. And their mind starts running in the background and they lost presence, they lost attention, and they start talking about themselves. They're flustered. All of a sudden, things break down, and the other person's like, what is going on? Now, all this stuff happens in the background
Mm-hmm.
and the coach ends up with, well, I don't know where that conversation went because there was not a clear intention, there was not a clear focus, there was not a space that was open enough for the person to share for you to lead them to the next level.
That's right. Yeah. And so, we put this all, if you're seeing the slide, it's all under the get to know you. You're getting to know them, they're getting to know you. But the underlying skill is creating space and creating that um, openness from the client, that they feel safe enough, they feel trust enough to open up with you. And that's a good thing for every conversation you have. Are you creating that kind of space for your spouse, your children, your family, your friends, your business prospects, your network, your colleagues, whatever it is. And so like that's just step two. Like step one is you're putting yourself in front of people and you're leading into conversations. Step two is you're having these meaningful conversations with people where they're opening up. And then step three, for those where you identify that there's a support opportunity where they can support you, then you want to bring them farther. You want to invite them into an intentional coaching container. And that's a whole other skill set. There's a whole bunch of skills that go into that. How do you invite them into intentional coaching containers? In the internal language of a coach, we call that a qualification call or a discovery call. Or there's a number of different containers you can bring them to. But so you want to say a little bit about this?
Yeah, and this is where if you've had a meaningful conversation, which means that you've connected with somebody, let's say it's a networking event or a family gathering or whatever it might be, you had a conversation with somebody, opened up, and through that process, and like Daniel mentioned, not every conversation needs to lead to you becoming the coach and them becoming the client. They opened up, but you saw an opportunity to support them. Now, this doesn't mean you're selling something to them. You just saw an opportunity to support them. He said, you know what? I could support you with that. And then the next skill set comes where it'd be like, oh, okay, would you like to learn more about how I could support you with that? If they say
Yeah.
yes, now you're booking another call or moving the space. You don't necessarily need to continue there. You could if you had the space to, but let's say you go to the next call, that's a qualification call. Now the intention for this call, this could be a few hours later, a day later, a week later, it doesn't matter. Now you're meeting with this person. Hey, you know what? That was an incredible conversation. I want to thank you for being so open. I wanted to book this call. I wanted to meet with you because I wanted to understand if I could actually support you, and I wanted to learn a little bit more about what you're struggling with or where are you growing in. So you're framing it, and that framing is really important. Now you frame this as, hey, we're here to find out if I can actually support you and if you actually need the support. If you don't do that right, then this could just become another conversation. So a lot of coaches don't know how to frame these conversations. They don't know how to bring them into a professional conversation that gets the client to now open, the potential client, the person to open up and say, you know what, I do need support here. Or it shows you that, you know what, they might not. They might just needed somebody to hear them out. Or they might just needed to vent or whatever that might be. But you're clarifying that because if you do this right and you qualify them, they're like, well, I do need this support. I've tried this, that, and the other. Here's why it's important for me to figure this out. Great. Would you like to have a deeper conversation about this where I can support you to figure this out? If they say yes, that goes to the next conversation. But if you don't do this right, then you're stuck. And this is why a lot of coaches that we meet, they meet multiple people, they run into people all the time, but they don't know how to go from contact to a qualification call or meeting because they
Yeah.
don't even have the intention for it. They don't even have a process. They don't even know what that looks like because usually when they go through a certification, it tells them, "Oh, just go do discovery calls with people." Well, there are a bunch of stuff that happens before a discovery call or a strategy session.
And also during and also after, which we'll get to momentarily. But this qualification call for coaches, we can call it qualification call. For the client, you can just call it an exploration call, right? You're exploring this issue that they asked for support with, and that's why the frame here matters. And there's a number of skill sets here about being open, keeping silence so that you can hear what they're saying, uh, precision in your responses to them, and also inviting them. The invitation process of how do you invite them to this call, and then how do you run the call. There's a whole bunch of skill sets in this call about intentionally framing and so on. But just to go a little faster here for the sake of the podcast, once you if you don't do the qualification call, you might not do the discovery call that you need to do, or you might do a discovery call that you don't need to do. So there could be a lot of time saved doing qualification calls because you can find out somebody's actually not interested in getting support. They might be excited to talk to you. They might actually not want support in a context of your program or at all. So that's some things you can identify in the qualification call. Is you're exploring the issue with them, and you can figure out, should I invite this person to the discovery call at every step of this process that if you're following visually. Step 3 was a qualification call. Step 4 would be to invite them into the discovery call. And we can talk a lot about how that discovery call works. We have a whole masterclass on how to do a great discovery call put together by multiple coaches, thousands of hours of coaching, discovery calls, and we put our heads together and figured out what are the best practices. But to invite them to that discovery call, and that's where you do your discovery session. Maybe this is some stuff that you learn from your certification, but also there's a process for a discovery call that sets you up really smartly to position yourself for the sale of the program. It also gets you to understand, more importantly, how to support this person, what this person actually needs, what's the deeper things going on that you can actually like understand the landscape, because it's not really smart to say, I'm going to coach you if you don't really understand the landscape and whether you can make a difference. And I don't want to spend a ton of time here, Faisal, detailing all the steps because we only have limited time on the podcast. But there's a few different parts of this that all work well together to help you when it's time to make the offer, which it isn't yet. We don't actually recommend you make the offer on the discovery call. And there's a reason for that. A lot of programs talk about, oh, when you just do your discovery call and then make the sale around the program, right on the call. And that can work. But most of the time it doesn't work, especially for earlier stage coaches, because they don't understand how to separate that discovery energy from the sale energy. And the challenge is they get all messed up. And so, but even at the same time, even if you're fine with that, it's still valuable to separate that from a client perspective. So to not make the offer on the discovery call, which is opposite some of the things that people say to do in the coaching industry.
Yeah, and I'll share a quick story and then we can transition towards the end of this podcast conversation. We can talk about this further as well. As you can tell, there are multiple steps to you from the time that you get connected somebody to the time that you make the offer. There are not only multiple steps, but within each step, there are specific skill sets that you need to determine from the beginning. You need to create the space for people to open up. If they don't open up, you don't know where they're going, you don't know what their challenges are. The next step, if they've opened up about something, you know you can support them. You're inviting them to a coaching container. But let's say you get there and you can't qualify whether or not they really want to solve it or they were venting. By the way, most people are usually sharing challenges not for you to solve it because they just want to be heard. And they might not be heard in their space. And it's your job as a professional to separate the two. But now, let's say you figured out you can support them potentially in an area, you take them towards a discovery call. This is where people experience what your coaching is, like the real skill sets that you bring. And I'll share a story. A month ago, I met a business owner who came through a referral, and I did a qualification call with him. I didn't do a connection because usually when somebody comes through a referral, they directly go to the qualification because they've already assumed that I can help them with something. So they came to a qualification call. He came to a qualification call with me. He shared what his challenge was on the leadership side. Then I did a 2 hour discovery call with him. Now, you might be surprised as to how this session went. All that happened was he shared what he needed to share, and he shared what he had worked on in the past, what he struggled with, with him and his team, and it's a business owner with 300 plus employees. And fast forward about 2 weeks after that, so the whole process took about a month. 2 weeks after that, he signed up for a $20,000 program. Now, and I asked him directly, like, why did you sign up? And the key there was, and of course, I have to translate that into coaching terms, but from his perspective, he trusted me through the process that I took him through. I had a good reputation because somebody referred me, and I gave value to him, which means I understood his challenges. I challenged him in a few area. I went deeper than what he understood what the problem was, and I gave him a path forward. And I'm translating some of the pieces of it. He mentioned that he got value, and I could see that this could go in a positive direction. And so and a lot of people call this the sales process. We call this the coaching process. We call this the leadership process. You're helping them go to the next level as a leader, and you're supporting them to solve problems in a way that they hadn't solved before with your modality, with your coaching, whatever it is that you offer there. If you don't understand the steps, if you don't understand the breakdown of skill sets, you're going to be struggling a lot, and you'll be saying that, oh, a lot people don't understand what I do, or I don't know how to talk to people about me being a coach, or I don't know how to offer things to people. And we haven't even talked about offers. We haven't even talked about follow up. We haven't even talked about other sets of processes that you need to understand for you to move people. Most coaches get stuck because first they're too scared to even think about this process because it sounds like, oh, they have to sell something to somebody. They don't realize is that they're actually bringing a lot of the skill sets that they were taught as a general thing in their certification, but now they need to amplify and bring the essence of all of them. In a sense, you're bringing the best of your coaching in this process. And if you don't, you're not going to sign up the clients. If you do, they see the value in your coaching and then they dedicate to their long-term path if there's alignment there. And there are lots of skill sets that happen in between these. And again, we won't have the time to go deeper into it. We're actually doing a workshop on this coming up soon in our community. If you're part of our community, you'll be able to get the notification for it. So if you haven't gone that, you haven't been joined our group or our newsletter or any of our area, you probably won't hear about it. But if you're part of our community, you will get the notification. These workshops we do them completely for free. You will gain a lot out of it. Break down what these skill sets are, how it connects to the process, and where are the gaps that you need to fill for you to actually get clients. And you might not even know what the gaps are, what the challenges are, unless we walk you through this process. And clearly we can't. It's very hard to do this in a 30-minute podcast. Oh, you're muted, Daniel.
If you've been following along, yeah, it's like we only have a short podcast for you, right? We can't cover everything, obviously, because there's too much to cover. But there's probably some very critical things you might have noticed about what we've shared so far. One is you might have some discomfort with this whole process, and wherever that discomfort is for you, there's probably multiple places, but there's probably some areas where it's particularly uncomfortable, and that's the place where you're going to back away from it. And so, what we want to encourage you to do is think about. We've only shared, the first four steps. You get in contact with somebody because you're putting yourself in front of people. You're having conversations. You're doing those meaningful conversations where you're creating space and helping people open up. You're identifying support. You're taking them to the intentional coaching conversations containers of the qualification call. It's a way to explore their issue so that you decide if it's worth having a discovery call with them. And then you invite them to a discovery call. But there's several more steps after the fact, including where you make the offer and how you do that. And there's so many skills. And then one of the big skills in that part of making the offer is like feeling okay with your money stuff. Like one of the big skills is talking about money in a way that doesn't appear needy, doesn't appear icky, doesn't appear salesy. Nobody wants that anyways. One of the reasons coaches are afraid of sales is that they don't want to be that salesy person because we've all been sold to, right? And so part of it is like there's a skill set involved in getting comfortable with that and in being able to say your price and let it sit out there, being able to not make excuses for it. And part of that is you doing it and practicing it. And so we have a lot of great ways to do that within the process that we've outlined. We obviously can't talk about them all today. But like at some point, someone's going to sign up for your program and that's going to be data for you. And so like we have so many more, we would love to share all the steps of this process. That's why we have our workshops. So if you'd like to join our workshops, you can go to cmc.coach and join our Facebook group where we will announce those workshops as they come up. And also, if you're interested in our certification on these specific skill sets that happen, all that what you just saw was about, it's only halfway through the process. We have 4 or 5 more steps there for you. if you want to be part of the certification that teaches the skill sets in this specific part of the process and why you need them and how you use them, that's a great opportunity for you to actually like deepen your skill sets here before they sign up for your coaching program. So you can go to cmc.coach /waitlist, I think is our URL for that. If you're seeing this anywhere, you can just go to cmc.coach /waitlist, and you can tell us what you want to learn about, and we'll get back to you and include you in the early announcements for that. There's only a limited number of spots. I think it's 20. We're going to cap it at. So if you want to be part of that certification, that can be really transformative for your coaching business. And one of the reasons I believe that is that we have done our support community for years, and we find that coaches run into the same challenges with the sales processes. And we've realized it's not just tell them how to do it; it's actually them building the skills to be able to do it more and more. And so that's where we're going to be really focusing on that in our certification. Not only do you get a certification of your coaching skills, but it's going to be coaching skills specifically related to the things that build the business, which I think is the real area for most coaches to focus on. Because if I personally believe, and Faisal, you can tell me what if you think this. These are the harder skill set. I found this personally to be the hardest coaching skills to build, because it requires so much more courage and so much more practice, and it requires us getting over the distraction that we create for ourselves to avoid doing these things. And that's why it's so important. And so like I found these the hardest, and I also feel like they're the most valuable because they're the ones that allow clients to commit to change. And that's the same things that allow clients to commit to your program, because that's where the change and transformation happens, because you're supporting them in that process. It also allows the coaches to build their business and get out of their own way. And that's why it's so hard, right? Like if it was easy, everybody would just do it naturally after there's a coaching certification, or when they decide to build a business. But these are business skills too that align with these coaching skills. So it's actually pretty complex. There's a lot of we want to bring sophistication to your coaching program, and we want to bring sophistication to your coaching skills in this particular area of before they sign up. Because if they don't sign up, well, you're not going to coach them. So at some point, you need to accept that. And if you are listening to this and being like, yeah, you're right, I do need to focus here, well, then that's what our certification is going to be for. And if you're not ready for the certification, that's fine. Just join our community where we can support you, cmc.coach. And if you like this podcast today, let us know. Reply in the comments or forward this to another coach that you know. Let them know. And we would love to see you in our community and support you with that. Faisal, anything else to add before we finish off here? You're muted.
I'd say we're excited to have you in our community, whether you join our free group or listen to our podcast. Please share it with any coach that you think will get value from this, and we look forward to continuing the conversation. Hope you have a
I
great
love
day.
that.
Bye.
I love that. One last line I want to leave you with. Nobody purchases coaching from a coach that they can't trust. So this whole process is designed to help you build trust with your potential clients. And that's something you're going to need when you get in the coaching program too. So we trust that you will seek out the support you need, and we're here for you. If you would love to get support from us, we'd love to support you. So head on over to cmc.coach, and please do forward this to other coaches so that they can learn what you learned today too. Thanks a lot.
Bye.